Not like it's late already. All right.
Matt.
Okay, shoot.
Max, your thoughts on the knockdown or lack thereof in the Crawford fight?
It was obviously a knockdown. Crawford came out and wasn't doing the things like you don't just get to do whatever you want. You have to make the moves like playing chess. You have to dominate the middle of the board. Then you can look for your combinations, right? Same thing in boxing. You have to do the things, make the boxing moves that set up you being able to do whatever you want. And Crawford skipped that part. And so he would move in as a southpaw, and Kavliauskas was timing him and finding the right hand. Hit him with a right hand and knocked him down. Clean knockdown. And at that point, I had Kavliauskas up 2-1 with a knockdown. Wow. So that was that. But Crawford got up off the deck and stubbornly wasn't even going to change out of his southpaw stance, where he was getting hit with the right hand. He was showing him, yep, I'm going to stay doing just this exact thing and beat you up and knock you out, which he did.
After that knockdown, was there any thought in your mind that Bud was really hurt, or that was?
Yeah, I thought he got buzzed again a couple times after that. Got hit with right hands in exchanges, and eventually when he switched right-handed, he really started to beat him up for a minute. Got hit with a left hook he didn't like and switched back to southpaw. Kavliauskas went to the Olympics. He's undefeated. He was the mandatory. He can handle himself and he can punch. But Crawford is a great fighter in his prime. And that's actually the kind of performance that will start making other fighters brave. He looked a little too mean for most guys until now. Usually a guy has a performance like that, and then suddenly some of the other fighters in the division who haven't wanted to fight him want to fight him.
Bob,
so hopefully that's the case.
Bob seems to be real keen on the Sean Porter fight. What are your thoughts on that?
100%.
Why do you think he's so
100%. It's obvious, because the same way when Triple G was being ducked by everyone, or at least when it was hard to make fights for him at middleweight, we all knew who out there who's a name would fight him. Wait, Canelo fought Austin Trout. He fought Erislandy Lara when he was the money man. This guy's not afraid. So everyone started calling for Canelo. Sean Porter is the guy over on the other side of the street making sure to name check Crawford, because he fights everyone and gives everyone hell, by the way. It's because of the kind of guy Sean Porter is that everyone assumes that that's the guy who'll make the fight.
How do you see that fight playing out?
You're next.
Does this victory tonight solidify Crawford as the best welterweight in your opinion?
It's an interesting question, because, and does it solidify him as number one pound for pound? Because you can look at that two ways. One, he fought a guy and beat him on not his best night, in the way, if Kavliauskas could choose a way for Crawford to fight before the fight, so he would have chosen that. That gives Kavliauskas his best chance to win. Crawford fought that way. Kavliauskas fought as well as he could, and Crawford still beat him up and knocked him out. So does that elevate him in your mind? Or when you're comparing him to the other best welterweights, do you think, well, he's a little more vulnerable than he's been in the past? When you're comparing him to Lomachenko, do you give him extra credit for showing that? Or do you say, well, wait a minute, that's not quite as dominant as we're used to seeing Crawford, and take him down a little bit? In my view, Crawford has now shown all the elements of a great fighter. Now the thing that's left is for us to see him fight another great fighter and come through under those circumstances. He's fought good fighters, and he's cleaned out divisions south of welterweight, but now he's in a division with other really excellent fighters, and we got to see him come through in those fights. It's not enough for just us to imagine he can do it. He's actually got to do it.
Do you see the great performance by Teofimo Lopez? Do you see him being the superstar, the man to beat Lomachenko come next year?
I don't know about beat him, but he's got a shot, and he'll be the underdog. But look, if he actually wins, that's amazing. But let's assume for a second that he loses.
Okay.
What kind of a loss will it be? And what kind of a person is he? How is he going to respond to it if he does lose? Because he'll be the underdog. Some guys, Azuma Nelson got a last-minute replacement shot against Salvador Sanchez when Nelson was an undefeated fighter out of Ghana that no one heard of. And he got knocked out in the 15th round. But he went to school on that fight and got better and better, won a title, made a bunch of defenses, knocked everyone out, was in the Hall of Fame. Jerry Cooney got a shot at Larry Holmes, maybe before he was ready, and put up a great fight, but got knocked out and was never the same. If you take a really young fighter and rush him into a fight with a guy like Lomachenko, And assuming he doesn't win because he's the naturally bigger fighter and he can punch. And he has fast hands, you never know. But assuming he doesn't win, what does that do to him? Does he go to school on the loss and get better? Or does it ruin him? It's a really interesting fight.
Oh,
Max, what was your thoughts on Joshua's performance last week and also Wilder Fury coming up?
Remind me, what was last week?
Joshua Ruiz.
Joshua Ruiz too.
Did you say the judges or Joshua?
No, Joshua.
The fight.
Joshua did what he had to do. He, an immediate rematch against the guy who knocked you out is a fight you don't have to worry about looking great. Win and move on. That's the most important thing. And George Foreman on Max on Boxing called this. He said, watch Ali Spinks too. That's what Joshua has to do. So I understand it. I would say it was good. It wasn't great. Great would have been, the big guy using the jab. You can do that and sometimes come forward. You don't always have to let the other guy